All right, so if you can read through that and look in the back, it says I, blankety blank blank. Print your name here, sign at the bottom, and date. I'll let everybody go ahead and do that part. Once you have done that, if you'll look at your clinical orientation summer for 2013 sheet, there is a line next to the HIPAA form. Put your initials there. An initial is not a check mark. An initial is your first and last name initial, so make sure you put that there.
Good. All right, guys, this is kind of a basic information. A lot of this stuff is common sense, and if it doesn't sound like common sense, it's in there because we had somebody do something really stupid, and now we have to make a rule about it, so we can say that we talked to you about it, okay? So we're going to try to go through this fairly quickly, like Brian was saying. You know, you guys were all here on a Friday. You want to go home. You don't want to be here right now. So we understand that. All right. Like they said, this is Brandy. Myself, I'm Henry Williford. I work full-time at ETS, East Alabama EMS, whatever you want to call it. So as you're doing your clinicals, good chance you might be with me, or you might be working on A shift, which is when I work. So if you're there, you see me. You know, EMS clinicals are pretty relaxed. Does this work?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay.
This thing on the side.
Okay, maybe not.
All right. All right. So you guys see me there. Might check up on you. Pretty easy going, okay? So we'll go through this. We've already done the HIPAA form. Has anybody not heard about HIPAA before? Is that like a new term to anyone? All right, so we're just going to keep going. Basically, that means keep your mouth shut about patients. We've got your syllabus. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Email. Email is probably the best way to get in touch with Brandy or myself on your eval sheets, which we'll give you here in a little while. Pretty much plastered everywhere is also our cell phone number. You only want to use that in case there's something really important that we need to know right then. So say you're puking, you know, and you're really sick and you got a clinical in 30 minutes, you probably need to give us a call. Whereas shooting us an email and, hey, you know, I'm not going to clinicals today.
Good question.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's on the back of our name tag too.
Yeah, my office number's on the back of your name tag.
Cool. So there's always ways to get in touch with us. Now your personal email, we're going to talk about FISDAP a little bit. We need to have whatever you link to FISDAP needs to be something that you check regularly. So if you have a student email and you don't even know the password to it, much less how to actually access it, we don't want that because we're going to be contacting you a lot through FISDAP, a lot through Canvas, and we don't want an excuse of, oh, I didn't get your email because I didn't check it. Okay, so that's not going to be an excuse. Pick an email, sync them with Canvas, sync them with FISDAP, and whatever we do there, make sure that you're able to get it. Okay.
What is FISDAP? FISDAP is going to be our scheduling system that we use, and we'll pull that up here in just a few minutes to show you what that is. You'll all get a serial number and have to log on, put your information on there. They get your address, your telephone number, emergency contact, and an email address. And what happens is whenever you go in and sign up for your schedule that you want, then it emails you and tells you these are your days, has you a place in there that you can look for them, and we'll pull that up and show you how to do that too. But anytime you turn in your data, and that's where you chart all your patient information that you do throughout the day. When you do that, if there's a mistake in there somewhere, we usually send you a FISDAP reminder saying, okay, this needs to be fixed, we've opened your shift, you need to be able to fix it. So your email address that goes inside FISDAP, and you'll see where you have a place to put that, needs to be something that you check all the time. Now, are all y'all familiar with Canvas so far? We've been going to school for about 2 weeks so far. I know our advanced students probably are. How are you guys doing with Canvas? Okay. Everybody else good? All right, so you've seen the emails from me. Nobody's not gotten an email from me yet. I sent one to everybody. So everybody's got one? Has everybody checked it? Okay, good. That's a big thing about email is I'll send out emails about reminders and different things, and oh, I didn't get that. Well, did you check it? Probably not. If you look on Canvas, every time you log on Canvas, your inbox is up there on the right-hand side. That's where I communicate with you a lot. So every time you open your Canvas, make sure you check your inbox to see if you have anything from me. I'll email you stuff in there about your schedules, if there's problems, complaints, anything that we have, anything that I need to get from you. It will be in there. If there's something wrong with your health records and things like that, we'll send emails through Canvas. Does everybody know how to link their Canvas to their phone? You can also link it to your Facebook, Twitter. I'm not technology savvy. I have to get on a physical computer and pull mine up. It'll link to my phone, but I can't get it to work right.
There's an app for
Mm-hmm.
That would be fantastic. I can't ever get mine to work. I hate my phone though. I'm just not a technology person whatsoever. Okay.
All right. So basically, email is important. Badges. Has anyone not gotten a badge yet? Has anyone not been to the library and gotten it? All right. That needs to happen as soon as you can, because come clinicals, you're going to need that, and I'm pretty sure they require them as part of your uniform whenever that kicks in for class as well. So if you don't have a badge, you're out of uniform. They're not going to allow you on the campus. That's some really important information. It lets them know, what level you are, what you're allowed to do, things like that. In your clinical folder, that's what you guys have right there in front of you. Just kind of hold tight to that for right now.
Your badges can be done at the library for those of you who have not had one. Who in here did not get their badge made yet? Miss Curry talked to you about badges yet? Yes, so you got to go to the library and get that done. Most of the time they do those on Tuesdays from about 9 to 4 with a break from like 12 to 1:30. They have a specific time that they do badges. If you cannot make that specific time, I need you to email me and let me know what day and time you can be here. They do not make them after 4:30, or they don't make them after 4. A lot of times it's because the ladies in the afternoon don't have a clue how to use the machine, which is a sad excuse, but unfortunately they roll with it over there. So if you have a time that you need to come and get your badge made, Monday through Thursday, especially for my online guys, I know y'all come to clinicals come to lab on Wednesdays. So if you need to come and do that on a Wednesday, if you can't get up here another time to do it, just email me and let me know, and I can let the library know that you're going to come at a different time. They don't mind you coming at a different time. We just have to make them aware.
Do you want to go explore this now, or do you want to wait?
Yes. Go ahead.
Go over it now?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm going to get out of this now. Alright, so the syllabus for 119 and 156, that's the basic and the advanced, basically look the same, minus the hours. The hours are a little bit different. Classroom times, they vary. We're just going to kind of skip through this. I'm going to hit some kind of high points. All of you guys need to read this. If y'all ask me a question and it seems pretty basic and it's in your syllabus, I'm going to say check your syllabus. Let's see. Course competencies. Your clinicals are an actual course. They're not tied into something else. So if you fail clinicals, you fail the course. Does that make sense? It's not that we find that it's very easy for people to get focused on the textbook, on taking tests, all these other things that are very important, because there's a lot of information that's getting thrown at you guys. And clinicals, doing your documentation on time, all the things that we're going to cover here in just a minute, are very important. And if it's not on time, it's late, and then they start counting off against you. So we don't want to get halfway through the semester and now you haven't turned in one clinical on time because you weren't making it a priority, and now you're failing your clinical class. We don't want to get stuck in that situation. Course requirements. The student is expected to attend all clinicals promptly and for the scheduled time. The student is expected to participate in all clinical activities. The student is responsible for all the information outlined in the course syllabus, what we're reading. The student is expected to be prepared for clinicals in advance. So if you, we'll go over your uniform here in just a minute. Your stethoscope is part of your uniform, so if you get to a clinical and we come to check on you and it's out in your car, you're not prepared on time. So just because it's at the clinical site, it needs to be on you. We don't want to get there and your shirt's not tucked in, all these little things that sound really trivial, but they all add up. We're trying to keep a very professional image. The way you look is going to be part of your patient care. If I have a wrinkled shirt and I haven't shaved in a few days and I am not wearing deodorant and I come to pick you up and you just called 911 and you're in a time of need, are you going to trust me? You're going to think that I can actually provide professional care? Versus the opposite of that, if I have a pressed shirt, I smell nice, I've got a clean shaven face, you're willing to trust me a lot more. So it all goes back to patient care, okay? Complete all the department admissions and clinical requirements, read the following student handbook and guidelines, and keep FSDAT clinical records current. And then of course abide by all rules and regulations set forth in the Southern Union handbook. Our attendance policies: students must attend all clinicals. If the student misses more than 10% of their clinical hours, so if you here, this is the basic one that we're going over, you have 48 hours total. So if you miss 4.8 hours of clinical, you will be academically withdrawn. So if you miss one clinical, how many hours is that? Say it's, well, they vary. So say you miss a 12-hour clinical. Are you over this limit? That's just one clinical. That's you slept in late one time. If the lower the number of clinical hours that you have, the more you have to really watch this. Okay, if you're sick, we're willing to work with you on a lot of things, but you really have to watch this because even for the advanced, is it still 118 hours? 112 hours. So right there, you miss a 12-hour clinical, and you'll be academically withdrawn.
And what that means is, like, if you're sick and you have a doctor's excuse, then it's excused, and that means that we don't turn it into academic advisory. If you sleep in late or you forget that you had a clinical and you're at work and you can't make it to your clinical, and you call us, well, that's a 12-hour clinical that you've missed, and that puts you on academic probation, which means you're academically withdrawn from 119 and 118. Or as far as advanced is concerned, you're withdrawn from 155 and 156. And you have to appeal to the Admission Probation Committee. You have to write them a nice long letter explaining just why you think you deserve to stay in the program. And they are a committee that makes this decision. None of us are on this committee, and it's something that we can do for you. The reason this is in here is we've had several students who missed a clinical, didn't go, slept in late, or whatever, and didn't have excuses. Now, there have been students that have been dismissed from the program completely because they didn't have a valid excuse as to why they didn't go to clinicals. So you can see how important this is. Just like on your job. What happens if you don't show up for your job? Yeah, if you have a good boss, you're probably going to get fired or yelled at. One or two, right?
All right, so make sure that you're keeping up with that. If you have children and they're sick, if something comes up and you can't make it to a clinical, call one of us. We'll talk about the time here in just a second, but talk to us, let us know what's going on ahead of time. So that way we don't get a call from the site saying, hey, you had a student scheduled and it's 10 o'clock, they're supposed to be here at 8, where are they at? Then we're going to be a lot less likely to want to work with you whenever we're getting calls from sites and stuff like that, and we have to hunt you down. Okay, so whenever you show up, we suggest that you get there about 15 minutes early. That allows you to kind of get orientated, get your stuff settled, all that. Meet up with your preceptor, get all that stuff settled, so that way whatever shift you're going into, you can go ahead and be ready as you're going into it. So about 15 minutes early, go ahead, go find whoever's the supervisor at the time, introduce yourself, tell them what level you are, ask where they'd like you. They'll schedule you, or they'll put you with a specific preceptor, and then you guys can work out things from there. Okay. It's pretty simple. We'd like you to be active. Obviously, we don't want you sitting around. Now, whenever you're on an EMS clinical, you're going to have some downtime. You don't need to be goofing off on Facebook the whole time or whatever. A lot of students find this a great time to read and study because some days we're incredibly busy and we don't have any downtime, and other days we go 3-4 hours and we don't have a call and we're just kind of sitting around. So use this time to the best of y'all's ability. So I've been through this program. I know how much studying, how much reading, how much tedious it seems work that you guys have to do. Use your clinicals wisely the best you can. Okay. When it comes down to tardiness, a student's considered tardy after the beginning of the clinical. So if you're supposed to be at the ER at 7:01, you're not there, you're tardy. Okay. If you're going to be late, you can still arrive if you do a few things. And you need to be able to be there within an hour. So say your car breaks down, something comes up, you need to call the site. In your folder, everywhere should be numbers to where you're going, everything like that. You need to call them, let them know, hey, something happened, I'm going to be a little bit late, and then you need to call either myself or Brandy and let us know what's going on. Now, if it's going to be over an hour, then we're not going to allow you to be there. So if you're supposed to be there at 7, it's 8:30, you can't be there, we're going to have to reschedule, we're going to have to look at why you were late, what needs to happen in order to get you, back squared up, okay? Let's see. If you won't be there within an hour, we'll have to reschedule, or it'll be considered an absence. 2 tardies is in a clinical will result in a clinical unsatisfactory. That's basically like a write-up. And if you have 2 of those, you'll be dismissed from the program, okay? Absences. I went over that a little bit. Let's see. when you call your instructor, one of us, we need to know your name, what level you are, the date, where you're supposed to be at, what time you're supposed to be there, all of that information, who you spoke to at the clinical site, and of course why you think you're going to be late or absent. Rescheduling clinicals. Once you schedule them, there's no guarantee that we're going to be able to work around your schedule later if something comes up. So your first time scheduling, you've got those guaranteed, but if something comes up, we're not making any promises. Now we understand that things do come up and we're willing to work with you on those, but Brian, who you guys saw earlier, gives us a list of dates, and those are all that we have. So if we have, say, 500 clinical slots and there's 500 slots that need to be filled by students, and you let out of one and now you need another, now we're out of slots. We ran into a problem last semester with our respiratory clinicals. We ran out of numbers. We just didn't have enough. And people wanted to reschedule, and East Alabama wasn't available, so they had to drive over to Lanier. They had to go somewhere else in order to do those respiratory clinicals. And people were upset about that, but we can only work with what we have. So our hands are kind of tied on that. Scheduling clinicals. For EMT basics, you're required to have a minimum of 48 hours. You'll have 24 hours on the truck and 24 hours in the ER, and those can be broken down into, depending on what days are available and at what times, either an 8-hour shift or a 12-hour shift. Clinicals will be scheduled with me or Brandy through FISDAP. You are expected to make an appointment with us, talk to us about them. We will make things available to sign up for online, but if you sign up for your clinicals online and you didn't check your schedule and now you're calling us because you forgot your brother's birthday is this Friday and all this stuff, we don't want to do that for everybody, okay? So if you feel like you can do it yourself, when they're made available, and we'll let you guys know that beforehand, you can do them online. But if you're not quite sure about it, come in, talk to us, and we'll be happy to help you out, okay? Alright, Brandy's schedule is pretty straightforward. It's posted outside of her door. My schedule rotates a little bit. I try to be here between 11 and 3:30 or 4 on the days that I am here, so that way if you come during the day, you can stay a little bit late and talk to me, or if you come during the night, you can come a little bit earlier and talk to me. And depending on my shifts at ETS is when I'll be working here. But I try to work probably about 2 days a week. So if you contact me, and if our schedules don't match up, of course you always have Brandy, or if for whatever reason you need to speak with me, I'll be willing to work something out with you. Okay.
Intention is only going to be here for about 8 hours a week. If you do have something that needs to be scheduled, question about documentation, things like that, you need to email me so that I can take care of it, because he's not going to be able to check his email every day.
And it's something that's very time sensitive. Try to get with Brandy. I'm willing to help out most I can, but if I'm working 24 hours or something like that, I'm not going to be checking my work email or anything. Okay. Evaluations of students' performance. FISDAP, which we'll go over here in just a little bit, is what we use basically to schedule all of your clinicals, to complete all your clinicals. We keep up with your time, all of your documentation, everything like that. All this stuff that we covered in documentation on your online lectures, this is where you get to play that out. So FISDAP is not for you to tell me what you did during your clinical. FISDAP is for you to practice becoming very proficient at documenting on a professional level. So I don't need to hear this clinical was boring, we sat around, didn't do a whole lot. That's not documentation. And I don't, all the things that we covered about being professional, about these things that need to happen in your documentation, this is where you get to practice it. So you'll finish a clinical for all of your patients, you'll fill out a narrative. Myself or Brandy will read the narratives. We'll give you a little bit of feedback. Hey, we thought this was great. Hey, this needs a little bit of work. If it's substantial enough, we'll reopen it, ask you to redo it. We give you a little bit of time on that. We give you 7 days from the time that we open it to get that completed. We'll tell you that whenever we email you. Now, any information that I give you is going to go through FISDAP. So I'll put a comment on the clinical, and then that's going to be emailed to you. And I'm going to expect you to check your email and find that, because I'm not going to take, oh, I never got that email, because I copy myself on them. And if I got the email, you got the email. So you need to be checking those. Let's see. here's where it goes over it. You have 48 hours from the end of your clinical to finish all your documentation and lock your shift. So if you have a 7A to 7P clinical, you have 48 hours from that 7 p.m., so 2 days. Now if it's 7:30 and you lock it, it's late and it's going to count against you. If it's 7:05, it's late. We think 2 days is plenty of time to get that information in. I can't leave work until all my stuff is done. They want it done within 2 hours per call. Unless we're busy, then they allow us 4. So 2 days is plenty of time to get all that information in. And if you're going to be late, if something comes up, say your computer crashes, something crazy happens, talk to us beforehand before we're sending you emails saying, hey, this is late, make sure that you get this put in. Why aren't you doing this? Let us know, hey, I might need a little bit more time. I've got to go to a funeral this weekend, something like that, so we can work with you. If we know ahead of time, we're more likely to help you out. Let's see. Let's read this. Therefore, you will have 48 hours from the end of the scheduled clinical to have all data entered in FISDAP. If you experience entry problems into the database, contact the clinical coordinator for assistance and avoid any late penalties. This should be done through email, and the clinical coordinator will get back in touch with you as soon as possible. Southern Union provides public access computers on all campuses at various designated times for use. Data is due within 48 hours. Within the 48-hour time frame, and if you do not turn your data in on time, you will lose 7 points from your clinical grade. So everyone starts out at 100, and you work down from there. So your lectures count for 80% of your grade, or excuse me, 20% of your grade, and then all of your clinicals count for 80%. So every time you're late, it's 7 points off. So after you miss 2 of them, you've already got a B on your clinical grade. Let's see. Once we reopen it, we give you 1 week in order to make those corrections. If you have any questions, say like whatever we said to do doesn't make sense, email us, talk to us. Of course, communication, like we were saying. Each student is responsible for reading and understanding the student handbook. Before clinicals, you're responsible for everything that Brian went over, all the stuff that's in this syllabus. Make sure all the stuff that we're kind of skipping over, you guys go back and read. Let's see. Some expectations of the students, compliance with the EMS department's rules. You need to practice appropriate infection control. One thing that they mentioned in the video is the N95 mask. Those are like the big respirators that cover your whole mask, your whole face. You have to be fit tested for those, and none of you are. So if you're in the ER or wherever you're at, and they ask you to go do something, and it's got that, you know that you have to have that mask on, let them know, hey, I haven't been fit tested, and they're not supposed to send you in there. There shouldn't be any issues. Now, if you're on a call, we have all of those respirators on the truck. If we get there and then we determine that we need those, say you're on the clinical with me, we go in after my interview, I think maybe the patient has TB. I'm going to go back to the truck, I'm going to get one of those masks. You don't need to be around that patient. So you don't need to ride in the back, you need to ride up front, or whatever, let them know that you're not supposed to be around that patient. Riding up front, on most of the ambulances, we can close that front door, we can get you another ride. Whatever it is, don't just jump back there, okay? Don't just throw one on and go along with it. And none of the paramedics, EMTs, anything should make you guys do that. So practice appropriate infection control. Of course, follow HIPAA. Respond well to constructive criticism. If you guys haven't realized yet, EMS is full of a lot of different characters, and that's just the way, that's the people that kind of gravitate to it. So you might be one of those people. You might have a clinical preceptor who is a little bit harsh, or maybe just a little bit of a weird guy. Go along with it. Of course, there's a limit to everything. Don't do anything that you're not comfortable with. Don't let them treat you badly. You guys are adults. You need to be treated as such, but we also expect you to act like adults as well. So, if they're trying to give you some feedback, if they feel a little harsh on it, try to just dig through it, see what you can actually do to grow from that. The student should not be placed in a patient or physical, place a patient in a physical or physiological jeopardy, place him or her coworker, basically just be safe. And again, read your student handbook. Okay, your evaluation, these things right here, which we're going to give you guys here in just a minute, are this is what you bring with you to your clinicals. This is part of your uniform. So if you go to a clinical and you don't have this, what are you out of? Uniform. I love the feedback. You guys are awesome. All right. So basically, the front of this, all of them look the same. You put all of your information on there. This front sheet is to be completed by your preceptor. Okay. So they go through, they mark how they feel that you did. They give us any comments, any feedback that we need. On the bottom, there's some contact information in case they want to get in touch with us. You guys should have a lot of these. So if you ever need to get in touch with one of us, you can contact us here. Yes.
Yeah, actually, I only had one last semester, and I ran out, and I was wondering if y'all can make these available or not.
Yep. They're not available through FISDAP. They're available in Canvas, which it should be under the Files tab. If you can't access it,
It's
let
under
one of
modules,
us.
actually.
Modules. Okay. Yeah. So it's under modules. If y'all can't get it, just shoot us an email. We'll send you a copy of it, or we'll send you a link. Okay. So the front of it is to be completed by your preceptor. Now on the back, you have all of these depending on whether you're an advanced, the basic, paramedic. They change. These are all things that you need to be keeping track of. Okay. So next to it, you see all these pretty empty boxes. As you do one of these, you need to be keeping a tally of it as you go through. If you give a medication, you need to put a check mark next to it, and one check mark per box. It's pretty self-explanatory. Read it before you try to do it. Make sure that you have it during a clinical. You do this back side as your clinical progresses. At the end of it, you give this to your clinical preceptor. They give you an evaluation. You're supposed to provide them with an envelope. They seal it up in that envelope. They have to write across the seal of it. That's really important. If you don't get them to write across the seal of it, and we get in trouble, you guys get in trouble. They seal it, you bring it to us, and they're due every Thursday. Now, outside of Brandy's office, which is downstairs, does everybody know where Brandy's office is?
But they're always on the Thursdays that you went.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going into the summer, there's not a ton of holidays, but say, a holiday comes up and you're not in class, it's not going to be considered late. Just turn it in once a week.
If you didn't have one, you don't have one.
Yeah. So they're only due when you have them. Basically, I don't want to go to review your clinical 2 weeks later or something like that, and you still haven't turned this in. We need those just as soon as you get a chance, okay? So make sure you have this, you have an envelope, it's in the envelope sealed, and make sure that you keep track of this, because the things that are on the back here, say all the check marks that you have going, is what I'm going to check in FISDAP. So if you have that you gave 2 medications, and then I look in FISDAP, and now there's 10 medications marked, I'm going to wonder why there's a difference, okay? So take a photo of the back of it with your phone, make a photocopy. There's scanners, printers, everywhere you're going to go. Somehow keep track of what you have here, okay? All right. Those are self-explanatory. I'll let you read through those. They're due every Thursday if you have one. On Brandy's door, there's a gray little folder-looking box. You just slide them in there. There's normally like 100 of them piling out of it. Let's see. Make sure that your name, your clinical site, the date, and what level you are is on there, okay? So you fill out what you can of the front, and then you hand it to them and let them fill it out. Because once you hand it to them, you're not going to get it back because they're going to put it in that envelope. All right, grading. I said this earlier. Your clinical rotations account for a clinical grade, which makes up 80%. And then each documentation, lecture, and exam that you guys did is worth 5% of your total grade. So that comes up to 20. Grading is listed here. You can review that. This explains how your clinical grade works. For every student, you'll start out with 100 points. In order to keep that 100 points, your FISDAP data must be entered within 48 hours of completing each clinical. And you must turn in your forms every Thursday that, of course, you have them. Now, I missed FISDAP entry results in 7 points being deducted from your 100-point grade. A late or missed evaluation will also result in 7 points being deducted. Data that is not fixed within 1 week. So say I open it, I say, hey, you got a week to make these corrections that I listed. If you don't make the corrections and you just relock it thinking I'm not going to read it, that's 7 points whenever it comes back up. Or you say, hey, I didn't get your email, and I go back and make sure, hey, yeah, I really did send an email, or the comments there, that's also another 7 points. So every time you miss a deadline, it's 7 points from that grade. You're responsible for turning in the paperwork and doing everything in a timely manner. Any student that has a poor evaluation, a grade of of unsatisfactory will be given by the preceptor. That's a 2 or below, I believe. Let me make sure. Yeah, 2 or below. We're going to follow up on that. We're going to wonder what happened, and we'll do a effective domain. Is that what they're called? Yeah, we'll do an effective domain with you. Okay. All right. So the lectures, everybody's done. Everybody understands that. Let's skip that part. Clinical eligibility. This is something that's very important. So everyone needs to pay attention. You must maintain an average of a 75 or greater in your didactic classes. So that's whatever classes Lyndall or Nick or whoever's teaching you is doing, okay? So once your grade drops below a 75, you can no longer do clinicals. Or if you never give it above a 75, you can't ever register for those clinicals. So your grade there reflects. If you were in the hospital and you had somebody that had an F in their classes, would you want them practicing those skills on you? No, no. No one's starting an IV on me that is failing their class. Okay, nobody's sticking needles anywhere near me. Nobody's going to be giving me medications, splinting bones that are broken on me if they're not passing their clinicals. And we're going to make sure of that because we wouldn't want it, you wouldn't want it, and we know that those patients out there don't want that. That's pretty self-explanatory. If you don't make it above a 75, like I said, we won't schedule you until then. That's part of the requirements. And if you get midway through your clinicals and your grade drops below 75, you're going to be pulled out of the rest of your clinicals, okay? So for as long as you have below a 75, you're not going to be able to do clinicals. And then once you get that brought back up, we'll reschedule those clinicals, okay? And there's no guarantee that you're going to get that same clinical because once we pull you out of it, somebody comes up and says, hey, I need that date, they've got it. They got the priority with it, okay? So it's very important that you guys keep that grade up. Obviously, you need that grade to pass, but you need it in order to complete this. So if you're thinking you might just ride out a 74 till the very end and you bring it up to a 75, well, now we don't have any more dates for clinicals and we're sorry. You'll have to come back next semester and do it. So we don't want to do that, but we feel it's very important to make sure that we have educated people practicing those skills. Let's see, uniform guidelines. All right, uniform to some might seem silly, but we take it very seriously. So we want to be viewed as a professional, program here. So we're going to make sure that we have good, clean uniforms, that everybody's in it. So we come to check up on you. We have a list, and we try to make sure that we check up on every student at least once. So if we go there and your shirt's not tucked in, you don't have a pen light, the smallest thing that's supposed to be in here, you need to make sure that you have, because this is your warning now. If you don't have it, there's a good chance we might send you home. Now we might be nice, we might not, but if we get sent home, we're not going to take any flack from it because this is your warning now. Make sure you have everything that's considered part of your uniform with you, okay? All right, shirts. While you're in the, let's see. All right, I'll talk about EMT and then I'll talk about how the advanced differs from that a little bit, okay? So you need to have your gray polo that's embroidered with the Southern Union logo. You can get those from Bonner's, Betty's, Victory Engraving. All of those places already have our logos there, so you go there, tell them that you're a student. You can buy the gray shirts from there. You can do whatever you need. We've had an issue with some of the shirts are a little bit short, so try on the shirts before you get them done, okay? Because if you can't tuck them in, we're not going to let that be an excuse. I understand sometimes stuff like that happens, but if that happens, you need to deal with it with that facility. Then tell them, hey, this isn't the same one I tried on. I need a new one that's actually this length. Work that out with them because we're not going to take that as an excuse. All students are required to wear a gray polo with the SUSCC logo on it, and pants that are considered that along with the pants are considered a field uniform. Gray is the only color polo that's allowed. EMT students must wear the field uniform at all times. EMT students are not allowed to wear scrubs. Now, this is where the advanced program differs a little bit. The advanced students, while you are on a field clinical, you can only wear gray polo, BDUs, your field uniform. Now, while you're in the hospital, whether it be an ER, labor and delivery, respiratory, whatever you're doing, those you can wear your black scrubs. They don't need to wear their field uniform to the hospital, do they? Advanced.
Advanced has to wear
They
black
have to wear the
scrubs.
black scrubs in the
Have to
hospital.
wear
Okay,
black scrubs.
so make sure when you're in the hospital it says black scrubs. It's not an either or. It's black scrubs for the hospital, BDU's field uniform for the field. Trousers, loose-fitting navy or navy blue or black BDUs. These are the pants, the cargo-looking pants. You can also wear Dickie slacks. They're pretty cheap at Walmart. Whatever you need to do, it just needs to be dark blue. Needs to have a little bit of a texture to it. Something a little rugged. If you're down on your knees in the middle of the freeway, we don't want you just tearing your pants up.
I've never seen anything like that for a while.
They have them.
So we have
They're not the most form-fitting, flattering, low-rise, bootleg, bedazzled trousers or anything, but they work.
Can you also get them like that?
Yeah, yeah. If you go there at Betty's, Betty's is the only one I've ever used. I'm not super familiar with the. Yeah.
I know Academy different company also have the high-tech boots that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Walmart has the slacks, they don't have the BDU pants. BDUs are great because you can stuff your pockets with your scissors and
Yeah.
stethoscope.
It's handy to not have to drag all that stuff with you.
Pens and pocket notebook and stuff like that will fit in there. You can find them online, but you're going to be needing them in the next week or two, so I would suggest going around here
Yeah.
and finding them.
Mm. And we understand, for a lot of people, budget is an issue. So the Dickies, they're probably like what, $8 or something like that at Walmart. I don't know. Anyway, they're cheaper than the BDUs. Okay, so if budget's an issue, look at Walmart. You just need a pair of gray or black slacks that aren't like dress pants. Need to have something,
Black
a little something to.
not gray.
Did I say gray? I haven't had coffee today, so I'm feeling the exact same way that you guys are. I'm like trying to get through this thing. All right, so make sure that you guys have those, okay? If you have a jacket, you shouldn't because it's over the summer, but if for whatever reason you get cold while you're in the hospital or, for whatever reason, it needs to be dark, single-colored, preferably black or navy blue. The coat must not have any patches, major emblems. It doesn't need to be like something crazy.
So
Yes.
I have a really dark brown coat. Would that be okay? I mean, it's almost essentially plain. Or no?
Yeah, that's fine. As
That
long
works.
as it doesn't have any logos on it, I don't care.
Yeah.
I doubt you're going to need it in the summertime.
It gets pretty cold in certain, like, when you're at the station.
Yeah. If you need it, just make sure it's a solid color. It looks professional. It's clean. And if you volunteer anywhere, say you work for a volunteer fire department, you can't wear anything that has their logo, their anything while you're on a clinical. So, like I work for ETS, and I still did whenever I was going through school. I couldn't wear that jacket that had ETS on the front of it while I was, on a clinical. Let's see, ID badges, we've gone over that. It's very important. You guys have to have that. It's part of the uniform. Scrubs, we've gone over that. Shoes, black uniform boots, high-tech boots. These are required for the pre-hospital setting. Clean tennis shoes are permitted for the hospital setting, and the shoes must be solid black. Now, some people have asked as far as like dark-colored boot-looking shoes for the field. As long as they look good, I would suggest investing in some of the, combat boots, whatever you want to call them, the high-tech boots. They range from, I think Walmart even has them for as low as $50. They go up to about 100 to 120, in that range. At Academy, I don't know if Dick's sells them.
Cheaper than Academy.
They're cheaper at Academy. So look there. They're a great investment because most of them are going to be waterproof. They provide ankle stability. It's only going to take one time for you being in the rain in a ditch where you're up to your ankle wishing that you had dry socks, and then you step and you roll your ankle because you don't have something that goes up and supports your legs. So it's worth the investment. If you're on a tight budget and whatever comes up, if you have a question, you can always bring the shoes by one of us, and we'll approve those if they're not anything that quite fit with this. Jewelry, we covered that with East Alabama. Brian went over. That applies for all of our things. Can they wear a wedding band?
Wedding band, as long as it has no stones, is fine.
Yep, so a solid wedding band with no diamonds, anything like that you can wear. Does anyone understand why you don't want like a big, rock on your finger while you're trying to wear gloves? The first time you're covered in vomit or blood or something like that, the last thing you're thinking is, please, God, don't let this glove tear. So you don't need big jewelry like that. Patients get combative all the time, and not even just mean patients. You go to seizure patients at least once a day, and they get very combative. They don't really know what's going on. So we don't need somebody pulling one of your earrings out, tearing your tongue ring out, you know, your eyebrows, all these crazy things, your scalp, whatever you happen to have pierced, that's just really out there. You know, those don't need to be, you know, on you when you go to a clinical.
When we come to check on you, you do have a nose piercing, a tongue piercing, or all your cartilage up here pierced, or men who have earrings in their ears. It is considered a clinical unsatisfactory because you are not in your correct uniform. You will be sent home and you will get an unsatisfactory. So don't even go to clinicals with a tongue ring or a nose piercing or whatever. If you have piercing somewhere else, I can't see them. I really don't care. Nobody's gonna see those. I don't care. I do, however, do not want it anywhere in your face. And if you're a girl, you can have small studs in your ears, but that's it. They don't allow you to have anything else.
One stud, right?
One stud.
One stud. So you've got two piercings down here. You only need one of them. One
It's
earring.
a fashion show. It's clinicals. I mean, you're not going to see just how you can impress with how much makeup you can wear, how good you smell, how tight your clothes are, or how much jewelry you have on. It's clinicals. So this is really a hard concept for girls, especially guys. We never have to worry about. The girls, for some reason, think it's a fashion show, and it's not. Don't go to clinicals with all that jewelry on or a bunch of coated makeup on. You just sweat your butt off. Last thing you want is have a bunch of makeup running down your face. Of course, wear makeup if that's what you wear all day, every day. I wear it. I'd look retarded if I didn't. So I don't mind that. I mean, no Betty Faye or whatever her name was, big blue eye, mascara, and everything else on. Just make sure that you look professional. Is all we're asking.
All right, hair needs to be a natural color. No blue, green, purple. No mohawks. Nothing crazy. Needs to just look professional. Everybody in here looks pretty good. Don't decide to dye your hair or shave, you know, it into a mullet or something crazy like that. Beards, you can have a beard or mustache. They are permitted as long as they are neatly trimmed and do not interfere with the use of a HEPA respirator. Otherwise, the student must be clean shaven. So HEPA is the same thing as N95. We don't want you to be put in a situation where you're forced to wear one of those. You know, obviously wearing one versus not wearing one is you know, going to be better, but hopefully you won't ever be put in that situation. But if you have a beard or a mustache, you need to have it neatly trimmed, make sure that it's not going to interfere with any of that, okay? Also, again, you just need to look professional. I would love to have a big, like, Jewish rabbi beard, but the first time I go to a patient that spits on me, or I have a rec patient that has blood, now I got blood on my beard, I'm going to want to shave that thing off. So what do? I keep a clean shaven face. Also probably couldn't grow a big rabbi beard. So life keeps going. No perfume, no cologne. Deodorant is very important. If we go there to check on you and we can smell you, or we hear that we can smell you, please don't put us in that situation because it's going to be really awkward, but we're going to ask you to leave because nobody wants a really musty person helping them. Nobody wants to be around those people. Everybody's been around that. Sometimes stuff like that happens, but you know, if you need extra deodorant, pack it in your bag, keep it in your car, do whatever you need to do. If you sweat a lot, you know, whatever you need to do to make sure that you stay fresh. It's pretty self-explanatory. Nails, short, clean, clear polish is the only thing. No like lime green, nothing like that. You can't have artificial nails. We don't want the same thing with the rings. We don't want those puncturing gloves. We don't want them getting ripped off, anything like that. Personal hygiene, smell nice, you know, trim your nails, all that stuff. Tattoos, only non-visible tattoos are allowed. This is a school policy. If you got an issue with it, don't harp on us. We didn't decide this. If you have a tattoo that's visible, whether it be on your wrist, on your forearm, whatever you have, they need to be covered up. If it's something small like on your hand, you can put a Band-Aid over it if you have to. If you got full sleeves, you need to be wearing long sleeves. I don't know if anybody has those issues. Basically, we just can't let you show your tattoos. Smoking, it's not allowed. You'll see a lot of the people on the truck, just to be honest, they smoke a lot. Some of them, it doesn't matter whether they're doing it on the campus. They shouldn't be. If so, I mean, they should get in trouble. I don't smoke. I grew up with two parents that smoke. It's not attractive to me at all. I have no desire to even attempt that. Sometimes they'll go off campus. They'll go, you know, ride the ambulance down the street or across the street, go smoke. Don't do that. You're not supposed to have chewing tobacco, no smoking, anything like that. If you can't go a 12-hour period without smoking, you need to really be reevaluating things firstly. But before we start lecturing on that, we need to work something out. Get some Nicorette gum, get whatever we need, in order to not be doing that, okay? Because it's not going to be an excuse that you just can't make it 12 hours, 8 hours, whatever it is. All right, other things that are included in your uniform is a stethoscope, a pen light, of course your Southern Union ID badge. You need to have a pen and black ink, bandage scissors or trauma shears. Does anybody know what those are? They look a little bit different. They have like a blunt tip at the end so you don't stab anybody. A complete change of clothes. This is not just a Southern Union thing. This is an OSHA thing. If you are in a situation where you get bodily fluids on your clothes, of course you can't wear that to the next call, next patient, whether you're in the ER or whatever it is. Bring, whatever you get, say it's scrubs or BDUs, polos, get at least 2 of them. If you're planning on going into this program much longer, it'll be a great investment. And if you only have 1 set and now you get blood on your shirt or you get a little bit of throw up or diesel fuel or whatever it happens to be, you're out of luck. You'll have to go home, and we hate that you're going to get covered in something like that, but it's going to happen to you eventually. And if you don't have another set of clothing, we're going to be less likely to work with you. Now if you go through both of them, of course, go home. Talk to us. Small little pocket notebook. You need to be taking notes as you go through, keeping track of what kind of patients you have, all that stuff. A wristwatch. We need that for checking pulse rates, respiration rates, everything like that. A watch. Let's see. Hold your hand up. This is great. You can buy. If you have a really fancy watch, I wouldn't wear it. Not definitely while you're doing clinicals. It'd be way too easy to break it. Something that's rubber. Basically, if you get something on there, you can wash it out. Like a leather band that you got here, awesome watch. But if you get blood in that, it's going to soak through. You don't want that. You don't want to mess up your watch, and you definitely don't want that just hanging around your arm for the rest of the clinical. If it's metal, the issues with those are, it can pinch gloves, it can pinch you, it can pinch patients, and it's a lot harder to kind of scrub, blood or whatever happens to get in there out. So my suggestion is, if you got a nice watch that you wear all the time, go to Walmart, buy a $10 watch that you wouldn't care if it got flushed down the toilet or something stupid, and wear that one to your clinicals. But you do need to have a watch because it is part of your uniform. All right. You need to have your evaluation form, skills objective sheet. That's what's on the back of it. Don't worry about this, right? They don't have to. No, okay. And you need to have a reflective vest. These can be really cheap, found at Walmart, $12. If you're on a wreck scene, it is a state thing that you have to have a reflective vest on. We've all seen crazy videos of police officers getting hit while they're pulling somebody over or something like that. We've all heard stories about EMS personnel, construction workers dying while they're on the road. It's a tragedy, but it's a fact of life. People don't pay attention. They're more worried about the person that you're trying to help and seeing how gruesome they are versus you that's trying to help them. So wear a reflective vest. Help yourself out. Help us out, okay? All right, optional things you can get. You can get a pocket mask barrier device. This is for doing mouth-to-mask CPR. You should never have to do that. We should have BVMs on the truck or in the hospital. If you are fickle about your gloves, and you have a special preference, you can bring your own gloves. All of those should be provided on the truck. We keep everywhere from small to extra large. Safety glasses. We carry shields and stuff like that on the truck in the ER. But most of the time, whenever you need those, you don't find out until it's too late. Trust me, it sucks. A jump bag, something to carry all your stuff in. Say if you get the Dickie pants, you don't have a bunch of pockets, and then you have your stethoscope, all this stuff. You can throw that in a bag, and a fanny pack if you'd like. I've seen that. That was pretty fashionable. And you can also get a tourniquet if you'd like. Of course, we have all of these things on the truck. That's why they're optional. All right, you have to maintain 75, just like all your other classes. There's some more information here if you need. If you have any disabilities, please talk to Brandy. We'll make sure that these are dealt with and that you have any accommodation that you might need. Electronic devices. No cell phones, iPods, iPads, tablets, PDAs, Blackberries, laptops, computers, anything that takes a battery. You're not allowed to use those while you're on a clinical site. So if you have a phone, it needs to be off or on silent. You don't need to be making personal phone calls. You don't need to be texting. You can't even have your cell phone out while you're in the hospital. Okay, if they see you They're going to put it on your eval sheet. If we get it, you're going to be in trouble. Okay. Now, some people may use their phone or their iPad or something like that to keep, like, say, a medical reference on there to keep drugs and stuff. If you have something like that, one, in the hospital, we've had an issue where they just don't like those because it's hard for staff and for patients to tell whether you're looking up a drug or whether you're checking Facebook or texting. Now, if you have an iPad or a computer, Brandy, correct me if you don't like this, but people bring those a lot to clinicals because they do a lot of homework, field clinicals, and in between calls, I don't mind if you do your FISDAP documentation. It's a great way to get it out of the way, or if you need it, something like that. As long as you're using it for something other than just goofing off, I don't have a personal problem with that. Is that okay with you?
As long as it's a field rotation, such as your ambulance rotation. In the
Yes.
hospital setting, they don't want any electronic device at all.
Yeah.
So none in the hospital setting whatsoever. Now in the ambulance rotations, those are perfectly fine. You do have downtime sometimes, so you're welcome to use that and do your documentation while you're on that clinical rotation. That's fine. We do allow that.
If you have kids or there's some kind of emergency where you're expecting a call, let your preceptor know. If you get that call, excuse yourself politely, go to a break room, get away where you can take that call. Most of the time, pretty much everybody up there is either married or has kids or something. They've been in that situation before where they might need to take a phone call. If you just explain to them that beforehand, be open, don't just go take the call and they never explain it to them because then they don't understand. All right, harassment. Sounds silly. Sounds like we always have to just say it just to cover our butts, but stuff like this really happens. We've had issues in the past, luckily, and since I've been working, there hasn't really been a whole lot of issues with that. If you feel threatened, guy or girl, it doesn't matter. If you feel somebody's being inappropriate, you feel that somebody's doing something that you are not comfortable with, we're not going to require you to stay in that setting. Please report it to one of us, somebody, of course, a supervisor. If it persists, you don't have to stay at that clinical. Just please talk to us about it because we don't want that to be something that you have to deal with. We want this to be a safe environment. It's really important when you're practicing skills that you've never really done before, that you feel comfortable, whether it be with your preceptor or anything. And sexual harassment, physical harassment, for whatever range of reasons that you may have, isn't going to be tolerated. We want you to feel safe, we want you to feel comfortable and encouraged to do well in this. I think that's kind of a broad topic. Everybody understands kind of where your limits are at. If you have something, please talk to us about it if it comes up, okay?
EMS has a bad rep of, especially the guys, saying inappropriate things, and a lot of the females really do get distracted by it and feel very uncomfortable. So if somebody says something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you're welcome to tell them to stop because it makes you feel uncomfortable. Or you're welcome to make up some lame excuse of, I've got diarrhea, or I'm vomiting, or I'm really sick and I need to go home, because you feel uncomfortable. It's okay to feel uncomfortable at a clinical site if someone is making sexual advances towards you, or just making off-the-wall sexual comments. It has happened in the past multiple times, so that's the reason that it's in here. So if it does happen to you on a clinical, and guys too, some women can be very vulgar. So if you're offended, by all means, please let one of us know. That is something that you have my cell phone number on your evaluation sheet. I expect a phone call.
Yeah.
As soon as you leave, you tell me why you left, what's going on, because it will be investigated. It is something that we have to talk to HR about and figure out exactly what has happened. And because it has happened in the past, we do want you to be honest with us and let us know if something like that's going on and you feel uncomfortable. Now, EMS is just, as I said, some guys can be very vulgar. Some girls can too. Some of them test like sailors. And if it's just something that you're not comfortable with and you don't like the environment, you don't have to stay there. It's not going to count against you as far as your 10% goes. If you're uncomfortable, feel like you're being harassed, or just feel uncomfortable in the situation altogether, we need to get you out of that situation and let me know as soon as possible. I know it sounds silly, but unfortunately it does happen.
And it may not even be something directed directly towards you. If somebody's just saying a coarse joke or something you feel uncomfortable, let us know. Now, with that being said, anything that you bring to us is going to be taken very seriously. So if you say somebody is sexually harassing you, we're not just going to take you off that clinical because you felt bad about it. They're going to be investigated, and that's going to come back on them. So please, it's a very serious matter. We want to take it seriously. We want you guys to take it seriously too, okay? And of course, none of this will be tolerated, from our students to anyone else. So guys, brush your teeth, wash it out with some soap before you go. If you're a little bit more course. A clinical site's not somewhere to be that for that. Clinical site's not somewhere for that. Okay. Same way, like we want you to look nice. We want everything about you to look professional. Everything from your demeanor to your clothes.
Also, and this also sounds kind of funny to say, don't date any of your preceptors. Don't give them out your phone number because you think they're hot and you want to go out with them. That doesn't fly because it always turns bad. If you want to date them, wait till after you're out of school.
Yeah, you guys got like a month and a half. Come on.
We've had sexual harassment from students to preceptors and preceptors to students. We've had a huge blowout with that, especially a few semesters ago with a student and an employee at an ambulance service. So it does happen. You have no reason to give him your cell phone number. You have no reason to chit chat with him and go out with him while you're on clinicals, if you're doing clinicals at the facility. The reason is because you can get a really good evaluation and it can really impact your school standards. If they give you a 5 because they think you're hot and you're going out with them, and in all honesty, you don't have a clue what you're doing, you're not doing anybody any good. It's a training facility, it's a place for you to learn, it's not a place for you to pick up people or for them to try to pick you up. So if someone's trying to do that to you, please just let them know that this is a professional setting and you're not comfortable doing that.
And if you have any issues and you decide you don't want to make a big deal out of it and you don't report it to us, and then we hear something from them that you did, and once we bring it up, then you're like, oh, well, they were sexually harassing me. We're still going to take that seriously, but we're going to be, why didn't you bring it up earlier? So if there's an issue, please bring it up and let us handle it. And don't wait until something comes back on you, or maybe they're trying to cover their tracks, or they feel maybe you might tell them. So now they say you were doing something wrong. So we come to you and you're like, oh, well, they were being inappropriate or something like that. Please let us know beforehand so we can help you. That's going to make your argument look a little less credible. We're going to still back you up best we can, but we want, that's going to hurt your argument. Does that make sense? All right, everybody gets that. It makes pretty basic sense. This last little part is effective domain.
I've already gone over that with Ms. Curry and then.
Awesome.
I figured y'all
So there we go.
already- don't have to cover
We'll
it.
use this if we need to evaluate you or something like that.
We don't do this every semester like you will have with Ms. Curry and with Nick. We won't do this in clinicals unless there's an issue. It's the only time we'll use that effective domain.
All right. Last little syllabus thing that we're going to do. Where's these things at? I wanted to look at the advanced hours. What is that?
For advanced, you got 112 hours, you've got 48 in the ER, 48 on the ambulance, 8 in respiratory, and 8 in labor and delivery. Seems like a lot too, especially for summer. Summer is cut very short. We're down to 10 weeks instead of 15 or 16 that we're used to. And you guys can do that in the syllabus. If you look in your folder, it has a syllabus signature sheet. You need to sign that signature sheet and also sign your initials next to the signature tab. Is everybody familiar with where to find the handbook, the student handbook? Do we need to go over that? No, everybody's familiar with it or not familiar with it? Not- Okay, let me just show you where it's at. You can go on and read it yourself. You'll pull up the web.
I think I just logged out.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Is it on there?
No. Just go
Okay.
to Southern Union homepage. You guys go into the Southern Union homepage. Scroll down to where it says Health Sciences. So click on that. Go over to where it says Emergency Medical Services. You click on any of these, and you will see the EMS Student Handbook is listed here. It is very long, has a lot of rules and regulations that go along with EMS. Your classroom, clinical, everything is listed in here. You're welcome to read through that. So you need to go ahead and initial next to Southern Union Student Handbook on your page as well. A lot of us, you can just scroll
Yeah.
through because you probably put it on there.
All right, so the rest of this PowerPoint, a lot of it's been covered in the syllabus. Just to kind of flip through it. If there's something that I think we need to cover again or that we didn't mention, we'll go through it, okay? If y'all see anything that you have questions on or need some clarification, please stop me, let me know. Like I said, we went over the 75% rule. Everybody understands what an absence is, how long you have for a tardy, what you need to do if you're going to be tardy to a clinical, what our attendance policy is. Review any of that if you need to. Scheduling, like I said, Brandy's hours are pretty set. If you just contact me through email, I'll be able to tell you when a few dates are that I'm available. We'll work something out. You can meet with me, whether it is to schedule clinicals, whether it is to talk about documentation, anything that you guys might have, just questions about EMS in general. I am more than happy to help you guys out. I'm up here because I love to help you. My hours are pretty limited, but I care about people that care about EMS. I'm a full-time paramedic, not because the pay is very great, so if that's what you guys want, get out, please. It's because I enjoy helping people, and that's why Brandy is here, and all of the teachers are here. You know, we have people that don't care about the program and stuff like that, and we're not really apt to help them. But if you show that you're trying, whether it's grades, you have questions about some kind of specific illness or procedure or something like that, come to us. We're more than happy if we have the time to stop and talk with you about it, okay? The last day to do clinicals is July 22nd. Mark that in your calendar if you need to. And then all of your data, FISDAP, everything, your eval sheets is due by that Wednesday, the 24th, so we can have all of our grades in and completed by the end of the semester.
And that means if you've got something open that last week of July, the clinicals are open, you've got to turn everything in by the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
You have a clinical on the 22nd, all your data, everything has to be turned in within that 48-hour time frames, which is the 24th.
Yeah. So if you decide you need the 22nd, but you don't have class again until the 25th, which is that Thursday that you want to turn in that sheet, because you chose the 22nd, you need to bring that sheet up, you know, on your off time or on the same day or whatever you have. All right, we went over this. FISDAP's due within 48 hours. It's very important. Eval sheets are due on the Thursday. Preceptor evaluations, that's something we haven't covered yet. They're due within 24 hours after your clinical. You should always know who your preceptor is. This is found
It's not in Blackboard anymore.
Canvas.
It's in Canvas. All of you have seen the announcement that I've posted in Canvas under 119 and 156. It's a preceptor survey. It's a Survey Monkey thing. It takes less than 5 minutes to do. As soon as your clinical is over, log on to Canvas, get something on your phone, click on that Survey Monkey, and go ahead and complete that survey.
Yep.
This lets us know about your preceptor, and it lets us know that if we need to do something about preceptors at a certain facility, you need to know their first and last name. Hopefully you will know who they are. We've had several students say, well, I don't know who my preceptor was, and they were with them for 12 hours. So hopefully you know who your preceptor is that signed your evaluation form.
Yep.
Sounds kind of silly, but like we said, this has happened.
Mm-hmm.
You'd
And
be
if you change preceptors, say you go to ETS and then somehow you're with one person half of it and the other person, whoever is there that you've been with the most, obviously use them. Or if the other person's already gone, use the person that you're with at the end of it. Just kind of use common sense with that.
We'd like for you to evaluate everyone that you come in contact with that's signing your evaluation forms.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make sure that you evaluate them.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be with somebody that they feel comfortable with and that wants to help them grow. There's plenty of people that don't want to do that and they don't like students, and we'd like to identify them and quit putting students with them. That makes sense, right? You guys want to benefit from last semester's stuff. We don't want somebody that just keeps putting students down or just doesn't teach anything or ever talk to them. We don't want them to have students anymore. But we will never find that out unless you guys tell us. So please do those evaluations. Tell us who the good and the bad, so we can help kind of funnel students in the right direction. All right, FISDAP. Advanced are going to get their numbers today, and basics you guys will get those very soon. This number, it's like looks like a little registration code. You need to keep track of that. Go ahead, it's on a little sheet of paper, I'm pretty sure, like we normally do. Is that right?
It's sent to your email.
Okay, it's going to get sent to your email, so a little less easy to lose. But go ahead and do that, because the sooner you get that on, Advanced, Nick is going to be using those a lot with your clinicals. Basics, you can't start clinicals until you're registered in FISDAP. So the sooner you do that, the better off you'll be. We won't start registering everyone until we get your drug screens back, until we see that everyone's grades are above a 75, or that your grade is above a 75, then we'll let you register for clinicals.
I think that this is terrible, but I have to read it.
Oh God, yeah, this thing's almost done. So I know this is dragging on and on and on, guys. And I feel the same thing you guys do. I'm like, I need a cup of coffee. This Coke isn't doing it for me. I don't even like Coke.
I was already starting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little IV drip set later. No, that'd be a bad idea. Most of the stuff's review. We'll be done, unless Brandy has something different, which I don't foresee. We'll be done with the PowerPoint in 15 minutes. We'll say that. At least 15 minutes. And if there's something else, I'll try to run through that. Okay? Because it's Friday. I don't want to be here. I don't have to work anywhere else. I'm ready to go too. Okay? All right. So while she's doing that, FizzDAP, we'll explain that as it goes through. If y'all have any questions, I have found a ton of great tutorials, even for the students on YouTube, on I think Vimeo. I'm not really super familiar with that, but they have a lot of instructional videos on here's how to put in basic patient information, stuff like that. Or if y'all just can't find something, shoot us an email. We'll help you figure it out, okay? For registering, when you go on their front page, as you go through it, it'll lead you through it. There's a video on how to register. Watch that video. It's very important. Clinical criteria. You get 2 clinical unsatisfactories equals a clinical failure. Clinical failure, you're dismissed from the program. Already went through the grading. That's weird. Didactic classes are tied to it. That's something we've had for a little bit now. That's the 75% rule that we were talking about. If you fail clinicals, you fail you fail your class. Online lectures, you guys have already done that. This explains the basics behind them. If you guys have questions about documentation, stuff like that, if you ask me, I'll probably give you a short version and then refer you back to it. So everybody should know what the chart format is. If it's not, if your field shifts aren't in the chart format and your other ones aren't in the chart format, the best you can do, I'm going to reopen it and you're going to have to redo it. And if you ask me, what's the chart format? I'm not going to take it in 30 minutes and explain it to you. I'm going to say, go to lecture 2, it's on there, rewatch it. Okay? But if you guys have questions, we're not going to just leave you high and dry. You can come meet us, you can message us on Canvas, email us, whatever you need to do.
Everybody familiar with the chart format? You've all watched the documentation.
It does make
lectures
sense. It does help anybody out. They're good? Okay. Try to make them short. Try to make them informative. I didn't make it. Uniforms, equipment. This equipment, you can get that at most of the uniform shops. A lot of them sell pen lights. They sell stethoscopes. The hospital has a uniform shop that's right next to it. I don't know if that was one of the ones that's listed. It's
Betty's.
Yeah, that's Betty's. Okay, so you walk in there and just pull it up on your phone, print it out, and they'll be able to get you everything that you need. Everything from a pen light to stethoscope to everything except your badge. Harassment, we went over that. Just say no. HIPAA is very important. Again, just act like your Facebook or your Twitter or your whatever else, Instagram, whatever it is, they have no idea that you're in EMS school. Okay? It's the best way to do it, because if it's slightly related, we don't want it coming back on you and it being something that sounds really stupid, but somehow, it just upsets somebody. Because once they do it, there's no discussion with it. Once somebody says you violated HIPAA, it's done. There's no really going around it. Clinical sites. You're only allowed to do clinicals at approved sites. If you have a question about a site, say you live in like Wetumpka or something, and you're wondering about what you can do out there or what's more close to you than East Alabama or ETS or something like that, talk to us. We'll tell you what's available. And then we schedule those a lot different. So you come to us and we'll help you get that process started. Clinicals are only allowed overnight, so that's from midnight on, at East Alabama's ER. So you can't do them overnight on the truck. You can't do them overnight in the ER at Lanier. You can't do respiratory, labor, anything past 12 o'clock. Do's and don'ts. Turn in your eval sheets every Thursday. Kids have to do within 48 hours. Be very professional. Make sure that you go to all your clinicals. Make sure that you keep track of that. Don't let them sneak up on you, and then, now you didn't realize that you had a clinical yesterday or something like that.
Because if you don't show up for clinical, it is an automatic clinical failure. If you look on your schedule and realize, well, I was supposed to go to clinical Saturday, well, then that's probably the end of EMS for you, because you cannot miss a clinical without reprimand. Okay, just like if you don't show up for work, your boss is going to be highly ticked off at you, and it's probably not going to be very much reliable.
Yeah.
So make sure that when you get your schedule, you know what your schedule is. You know when you're supposed to go somewhere. That I don't know what my schedule is. I didn't know I was there. Well, you signed up for it, so obviously you did know because you signed up for it. So that excuse does not work.
Those slots are so valuable. Most everybody in here probably has another job or some other obligation, and it's hard to find clinicals that match with your work schedule and all that. So if you're taking up spots and you're not going to them, or you've got to switch every other day because you just don't like the way your clinicals are, you're making somebody else work harder because maybe they really needed that day, but you took that slot and now you can't do it. It's not fair to everybody else.
So, just to be clear, you said you can or cannot do overnight?
The only place, so it's a no, except for East Alabama ER. We have a 7 p.m. to a 7 a.m. shift. Okay, now with that being said, you can't sleep at all during clinicals. So if you're at Smith Station, which sometimes it's getting a little bit more busy, but you can go out there and you can do an entire 12-hour shift without running any calls. I don't really suggest it, but if, say, you live in Phoenix City or something like that, it might be an easier place for you to do them. I don't like going out there because I don't think you're going to get a ton of experience. But it's your choice. If you're out there and you go 12 hours, you don't need to be falling asleep. You need to be doing jumping jacks, something that you can do to keep you awake. Yeah.
I got more action at Smith Station than I did in Oklahoma, so.
And it
There
really
you
just
go, yeah.
depends on what the day is,
Yeah.
how it goes.
And a lot of the time, Smith Station's transports might be a lot longer. So if you actually do get a more critical patient, you might be with them longer than in Opelika, where we might just be going from, Plum Street down to the hospital or something. Okay. Make sure you have your uniform, all your equipment. Remember, that's part of your uniform. Don't do anything that you're not comfortable with. Now, with that being said, try to push yourself. Obviously, for the advanced, the first time you start an IV, it's going to be a little nerve-wracking. But trust your skills, learn so you know what you're doing once it comes to it, and then just trust yourself. Most of EMS is learning, about everything, from diseases to procedures. But you just have to become comfortable with yourself and put yourself out there a little bit and trust yourself and give yourself a chance to prove yourself to yourself. Does that make sense? That's a lot of yourselves.
If it's not on the back of your evaluation sheet, that means you can't do it. Like your basic EMTs, you can't give medicines, you can't start IVs, you can't draw blood, you cannot do any invasive skills whatsoever. If it's not listed on the back of your sheet, you can't do it.
No.
Advanced EMTs, you can't intubate with an ET tube. It's not on the back of your sheet, right? Pretty much you can give medicine, start IVs, do assessments. You can put in a supraglottic airway, but you cannot intubate with an ET tube. So if it's not on the back of your sheet and they're asking you to do it, you might want to think about it. Have I been checked off on this in the lab? Have we covered this in school? I don't feel comfortable doing that. I can't do that. I'm sorry. It's not on
If
my
you
sheet.
haven't been taught about it, no one's going to ask you to do that. Or if
Like
they
a
do,
catheter.
explain to them,
None of
please
y'all have
don't.
any business putting a catheter in
Yeah.
somebody. You're not going to learn that.
Nobody
in
wants to do
EMT
that
school.
stuff anyway. That's why we got into EMS. All right. Don't anything you're not comfortable with? Don't touch a stretcher with a patient on them unless your preceptor is there with you to assist. Now at ETS we have electric stretchers, but for everybody that's in basic, I want to encourage you. We have the electric ones that we put on all the front run trucks, and we have manual ones. You guys need experience lifting manual stretchers because it's not everybody has them. And ask your preceptor, hey, can you show me how to use a manual stretcher? They're very simple, but they take a little bit of practice to actually get where you can use them, while somebody's on them. So you guys will probably go over that in the lab a lot, but get used to doing a lot of this stuff. Instead of looking at the heart rate on the monitor when the paramedic hooks them up, try palpating for blood pressure. Try palpating for a pulse rate. Try listening to breath sounds. Get used to using those basic skills, because if you rely on machinery, the first time that stuff malfunctions, you're up a creek. You're out of luck. All right, and then check your FISDAT. Make sure that you know your schedule.
Also, how many of you drink alcohol?
That's good.
Pretty much everybody, right? Not everybody. You cannot have an alcoholic beverage 12 hours before you go to clinicals. You cannot stay out partying all night and go to a 7-hour clinical or a 12-hour clinical at 7 o'clock the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that is a no-no. If you go smelling like alcohol, you all know what it's like to wake up after a drunk night, right? What do you smell like? You stink. It radiates out of your pores, especially if you're a heavy drinker. It radiates out of your pores. No alcoholic beverages within 12 hours of the clinical. So if I have a clinical tomorrow morning by 7 o'clock tonight, I can't have a drink. So if you have peer pressure out the wazoo, I would suggest staying at home, bolting your door so that somebody doesn't bother you to have a drink if it's that bad, okay? no drinking before clinicals.
At ETS, if we get in the littlest accident, say we hit a curb wrong and it does anything to the truck, we are required to do a drug test, and everyone minus the patient that is on the truck will be drug tested. So if we have a nurse, we have somebody from the flight crew, we've got 4 students, all of them will be drug tested, and it doesn't matter if you were the one driving or not. If something shows up, drugs, alcohol, anything like that, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. So 12 hours is plenty long enough to get everything like that out of your system. So please, even just be safe. That's obviously, nobody wants to get kicked out because they had a drink that morning or that night or stayed out too late. All right, be professional. Cell phones are for emergencies. Don't just call us because you want to see what the score on the Braves game was.
Oh my gosh, last night.
I struck a chord. All right. And then refer to your syllabus if it's basic stuff like how many truck rotations do I have to do. Please don't call me with that, or Brandy. Nobody has time for that. Anybody have time for that? All right. Is that?
Let's go ahead and pull up FISDAP and shut them down real quick, and then we'll be done.
All right. So we'll give you a real quick run through on FISDAP again.
The package you have in front of you, since Lanier could not be here today, she was not able to go over those. If you look on the back part of it, about 3 or 4 pages from the back, it says post-test. That part you can pull off, and you need to fill that out sometime this weekend and bring that to me next week. You can put it in my box, all right? You don't have to pull it off right now because I don't want you to lose it. It's pretty self-explanatory when you read through it. That is their orientation packet, so review that as well as looking at the questions. Get that done and turn it into me next week. Most of our students do have to go to Lanier because we do run out of spaces at East Alabama. They give us very limited amount of space because they've got a lot of students that run through East Alabama, so we do have to go to Lanier a lot.
For advanced students, is there any hospital service available in the
Nope. Lanier and East Alabama is closest to you. We're trying to get in Jack Houston. There you are. We'll have to see. It's taking a little bit of time. Yeah.
I didn't have anything set up. I'm gonna do any fake shifts or anything.
Oh, no, it's fine. Just
Um,
be able to see how they can sign up on it.
All right, so the address is fisdap.net. That'll be in your email. It's really the only thing that's similar to it, so you don't have to worry about a .com, .org, or anything. I guess I could just log into mine.
Maybe you're a student or your instructor.
I don't have any open shifts in my student one.
Yeah, just do your instructor.
Okay.
And Henry just did a really bad thing. Did you see that box under under your login? You have to click that box. Otherwise, every time you do something in FISDAP, you have to put your password back in again,
Yep.
which can be
So
aggravating.
it says like I authorize this computer, and it doesn't, like if you're on a public computer, it doesn't keep that. It's every time you log in. All right, so this is for the most part what you guys will look like when you log in. You have all these different tabs. I'll show you a little bit about some of that stuff. This is my instructor account, so it might look slightly different, but when you have different clinicals, they will show up. Like say you got scheduled for a clinical, these are like messages. If we have a comment or something like that, one, it will get sent to your email, whatever you have a link to it, but also you will have something pop up like this. And it'll say, Henry or Brandy said this stuff on this clinical, reopened it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. When you go to your schedule, it says shifts, and you have these few drop down. Your schedule will show you all the shifts that are available. And this is going to be how you're going to sign up. Again, you can't sign up until you've talked to us and we've said, hey, you're clear to go. Okay. Doesn't show you a drop down. This if you just click go, it sends you like a generic. This is every shift that's available, or you can do specifics, like you can fine tune your search there. So as you scroll down, we'll go here. A red door. If you guys see that, it means that somebody's already in there and there's no spots available. A green door that's open means that you can choose that shift, and then they're broken down by hours. Give you a little basics. So like right here, this one is at, let's do one that's you'll see a lot. All right, East Alabama ER. This one starts at 1600 and lasts 8 hours. This one, a student, Marcus Luda, is signed up for that. So the door's red. That means anybody else can take that shift. So if you want to sign up for one, you would just click on it. It would take you to this. There would be a little sign up button here. You'd click to sign up for that. This is a little bit different because this is more the instructor side of that. But it gives you all that basic information. Now whenever you sign up for a clinical, it sends you an email too. So it'll say you signed up for this clinical. So you can go back and there's a lot of different ways to double check.
Already started signing up.
Yeah, we have a paramedic class
Yeah,
going on
the
now
paramedics
that are in their second
haven't had to
semester.
go through orientation. They've all done that last semester.
So then we like get like the last batch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that
there's only so many of them, and there's a lot of shifts. So it's not like there's only 2 ER shifts you guys have to fight to the death for them or anything. But if it's not up here, don't come and ask us if you can do a clinical at East Alabama from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. If it's not in here, it's not available. These are all copies of what Brian gave us and said this is when we can take students, so we broke them down into multiple shifts. I think maybe I can go into one.
Once you've logged on to PhysApp and you've made your schedule, if you go back under the Shifts tab, you can see the Skills and Patient Care. Click on that, and your shift will come up here. Like if I type in Mason Bernard or David Bernard. There it goes. If I'm Mason and I'm logging into my shift, I can log on to my Skills and Patient Care, and it pulls up my shift in a chart format for me there. Lets me know that I've got a shift on these certain days. You see the paramedics have a ton of hours. Aren't you glad you don't have that many?
So this will, this is a good example. This will show you, this is where you really need to be looking to say, when am I on, when do I have a clinical, where's it going to be at? All right, so we'll go through the colors. A blue one is any kind of field shift. Green one is like a clinical site, basically anything that's in the hospital, whether it be labor and delivery or ER. And then if your teacher decides to do any lab skills with you, it's going to be in this yellowish color. All right, so breakdown of what it is, we'll go to one that's closed that Mason has already done. This tells you where it's at, what time it starts, all that information. This is the number of patients that you have. A check mark means that we have audited it. So this one obviously we haven't looked at yet. The lock mark here means that they have locked it. So if you have one and you've already put in all the information, say like this one was yours and you've already done it, but this hasn't been done yet, you click this and it says this says, well, then you can choose to lock this shift. So once that's locked, then it sends us an email and we know you're done with that clinical. We can go in and see how you did and review your information. Okay, if you'd like to delete one, which I don't know if they can or not, you can click here. And then if these speech bubbles, if you have something that came up, say you're in Smith Station or whatever happened, you didn't run any calls, but you lock it and it has a 0. Well, I'm thinking you just locked it and didn't put any information in. So I'm going to say, why don't you have any patient information in? And you come up, if you put a little note here, if this is blocked in and I haven't looked at it yet, I'm going to know like you made a comment, so you can put it here. I'll give you a drop down. You could say whatever you need to. You can have it email. This would say probably some different teachers or something on it. All right, so we'll look at this one because it has a review on it. So this means that there's been a comment left on it. This is where myself or Brandy will put any of the information that we thought was good or bad. We'll say good job on this. On this one, it was make sure to document times and watch for small spelling errors. Now, if one had to be reopened, I don't know when the last time I reopened one. Okay, all right, it doesn't matter. So we put little notes in it there. Like I said, look up videos. It shows you a generic video on how to input patient information. If you go into a clinical, it gives you a breakdown of what kind of patients you had. Like right here, it shows you an overview. If you'd like to see what we see when we review it, if you click on this detailed shift report, this is what I look at whenever I reviewed this clinical. I go down, look at all this information, I read his narrative, and I make notes about it. Alright, if you'd like to go into it and input some information, you can click on it. And this is what you guys get to see. All right. We're not going to go through everything, but I want to point out just a handful of really important things. Okay? These things right here, it says I performed patient interview and I performed patient exam. If you only observed what was done, say there's a cardiac arrest and you never put your hands on the patient, neither one of these need to be checked. But if you were actively participating in the patient care, even if it was you jumped in there and got chest compressions on the patient, we want these done. Obviously, we want you to push yourself out there. We want you to do some kind of interview. We want you to do some kind of physical exam. But everything's kind of a team effort in EMS. So say you were asking most of the questions and the paramedic did a lot of the physical assessment. We want you to get credit for that. So since you were actively participating in both of those as they were going on, make sure that you check these. So bottom line, if these aren't checked, you don't get credit for that patient. It counts as if you observed it. When you come down, you can input any of your information in here. It's broken up into categories, pretty self-explanatory. My suggestion would be click through each one of them and as it goes through, so that way you can see what it has until you get familiar with this certain thing goes in here, this certain thing is under this tab. You may not know that it's in there, and you might see, oh yeah, I forgot to document that I did this. And that's some basic stuff. Everything else I think is kind of, for the most part, covered in the documentation lectures. Anything?
Go back under my shift page. When you guys' schedule gets in there, go back, and you are able to start putting in your data, there's a video for each one of these, how to put in a clinical, how to put in a field rotation, and how to put in the lab data. Go all the way to the top one that had been opened, or one that had been put in. Click on that one.
I just got to pass the date.
Since Mason's already reviewed his video, he's not going to be able to see it. But once you log in, as soon as you go into where it says you can put your data in, this is what you will see. Watch this video for a tutorial on how to do this. Every time you log in to put in a new shift, you have a new hospital shift to put in, you have a new field rotation to put in, or a brand new lab rotation to put in. You need to watch these videos. They're about 5 minutes long, and it tells you how to do it. Okay? It kind of walks you through it as a student level of how to put this data in. You're going to have a drug screen probably in about the next 2 weeks. Steve and Miss Curry will let us know exactly, well, Steve Simpson, the program director, will let me know, and then Miss Curry will let you know you have to be here early for class the next day or whatever to come in and do your drug screen. As soon as we get your drug screens back and all your data, all your health records and stuff are back, and Miss Libby has approved you to go, then you will get your FSDAP number. And it'll make a little bit more sense to you once you're actually able to log in and look at it and how to play with it. And we'll get your schedules made then. Does anybody have any questions so far? Yes.
You know, on the back of these eval sheets, there's a check-off list.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to, I mean, because some of these things might not occur. So what's...
Right, you will check off what you do that day. So like if you do 5 patient
I thought
assessments,
we gave this to the preceptor.
the preceptor has to fill out the evaluation section of it. As you go throughout your whole day, you will have this sheet with you all day long. So as soon as you see a patient, you do an assessment, there goes one check box. I put oxygen on 2 patients, there's 2 check boxes. I do ventilations on 5 patients, that's 5 check boxes. I keep up with this all day long as a student. I'm going to keep up with my stuff that I do all day long. And at the end of the shift, I'm going to hand this to my preceptor. After I've filled this out, I've filled the top part out, I'm going to hand it to him and say, this is my evaluation. Will you please evaluate me, put my start and end time, and then put it in an envelope. You all are responsible to take an envelope with you to clinicals. Your preceptor will fill this out, fold it up, put it in the envelope, and they will seal it. On the back of that seal of the envelope, they need to sign that seal. Most preceptors are pretty familiar with this process. We've done it every semester. It also has on here a little helpful reminder to them to make sure they sign it. If you bring me an evaluation that doesn't have a signed signature on the evaluation slip itself on the envelope, it doesn't count. It's not valid. They have to put it in there, close it, and sign the back of it, telling us that they validate that this was them putting it in here. You can take it and put it in an envelope all day long, fill it out, and fabricate it, and it doesn't count towards your data.
So they're not mailing it to you. We're going to get
No,
it
you
straight
bring
from
it back and put it in that box on Thursdays. That's what's due on Thursdays in that black box on my door.
Okay.
Does that make more sense?
Yes, that's
Perfect.
cleared up well.
Any other questions? If you wind up leaving here today and have a question, please feel free to give me an email. on Canvas and let me know if you have any questions or concerns. That Lanier packet is due next week, so I need it back
And all these
ASAP.
right now.
And all that right now. Has to go back in your folder. Do you have anything else to add?
I think that's it.
All right, all the EMT students are free to go once you put your stuff back in your folder. Your evaluation tools are to be kept. Y'all have a seat. Y'all aren't leaving yet. I said EMT, y'all aren't EMT students.
Guys, thanks for coming. I know a Friday is valuable time for a lot of people. Like she said, if y'all have any questions, email us. Thanks for hanging in there. Y'all are great.
Thank you. Make sure you take your evaluations with you. I don't want to find them in your folder.